Hey there. So this is going to be hopefully fairly brief, few words concerning some conceptual tools regarding the theme of silencing. And I'm also going to experiment here using a PowerPoint slide, which I'll also post on Blackboard in case that's useful. Let's have a look, see if this works. All right, some concepts related to silencing. Partly the reason we want to do this is because it may seem sometimes when you first think about it that silencing is just that, a kind of literal silencing. Certainly that's bad. Certainly that does happen, certainly in the past, in the world today, where someone may be literally silenced with regard to her experience or expressing her experience, an experience of oppression in particular. But that's not the only way it happens, right? It may be that silencing occurs even when individuals are quite free to speak. So, for example, a couple of things. These may seem technical, but I think they're fairly useful, so it's worth it. Something we may call illocutionary disablement. I'm borrowing this term from Ray Langton. When we speak of illocutionary acts, we're thinking about when we use words, when we speak, and we're trying to achieve certain purposes, trying to do certain things, make a promise, explain something, for example. We might be able, in principle, to do that, but for reasons pertaining to the context, for reasons pertaining to certain prejudices on the part of our listeners, we might be rendered unable to do that. We might fail to achieve those purposes. That's a form of silencing, if you're unable to do that. Closely related, but different, is something we might call, again, Langton called perlocutionary frustration. So when philosophers speak of perlocutionary acts, we're talking about not so much the purposes we have, but the effects we are trying to achieve with our words when we speak. If, for example, we're trying to get someone to take something seriously, or we're trying to persuade someone of something. For similar reasons, or rather in a similar way, owing to reasons about the context or prejudices on the part of our listeners, one might fail to do that. And likewise, that would amount to a kind of silencing. Now, we could wonder about the reasons for this, so I'm going to add a couple of other things here. Something from the work of Miranda Fricker in particular is sometimes called a credibility deficit. I have a typo there, I apologize. Credibility. Oh no, that's spelled right. Never mind. Basically, it is the case in different contexts and in different ways that some people are unfairly considered to have more or less credibility. Some people are taken to have more credibility with a certain issue than they really should. Conversely, others are considered to have less. This often happens along gendered lines, and this would be a kind of what we call testimonial injustice. Testimony, a general term for trying to report or relate your own experience, can be made more difficult or even impossible because of such sort of structural deficits. And another term, this is the last thing here, is sometimes called hermeneutical injustice, where someone might simply lack the resources required to adequately and accurately convey their own experience, or to make sense of it and to express it to others. This certainly, you can think of historically and in different contexts still today, certain concepts, certain ideas, just ways of expressing things may be unavailable to certain women. And this, again, would amount to a kind of silencing with regard to their efforts to relate their own experience. In a general sense, it's basically that, at least in a big way, that feminist philosophy is trying to correct, trying to develop precisely those kinds of resources so that the kinds of oppressive experiences that we're particularly concerned with can be expressed. We can bring them out, talk about them, and on that basis, hopefully, bring about change. But that's fairly quick on some of those terms. I'll put this slide up. If you have any questions, of course, just get in touch with me. But see if you can, think about these things and possibly work them into your own thinking and what you might say on the Flipgrid discussion board about this theme.